You know, living inside many of us is this tiny organism with a really long name. For decades, the story about it was super simple. It was just a harmless passenger, kind of hitching a ride in our gut. But, well, that story is starting to change in a big way.
So that's really the big question we're digging into today. We're going to explore the new science that's coming out about this common parasite, and it's making us rethink the line between a peaceful resident and maybe a hidden enemy.
To really get why the new research is such a big deal, we have to start with what scientists used to believe. For the longest time, for most of a century, this little organism was just filed away as totally irrelevant to our health. And you can't get much more official than that, right? The US CDC, a huge global health authority, basically said it's not pathogenic. So for most doctors and scientists, if they found it, they just ignored it. It was case closed. Okay, let's break down that name, Pentatrichomonas hominis, because it's actually a perfect description of what it is. Penta is Greek for five. Tricho means hair, and that's for its five little hair-like whips, or flagella. Monas just means a single unit, because it's a single-celled organism. And hominis, well, that's Latin for of the human, since that's where we first spotted it. So the name literally means the five-haired single unit of humans. Kind of cool, right?
So to be clear on what we're talking about, this is a protozoan. That means it's a single-celled little guy that lives inside our bodies, an endoparasite. It's not a metazoan, so don't picture a big multi-celled worm or something you might normally think of when you hear the word parasite.
So how does this tiny single-celled organism manage to survive and get around so well? Well, the answer is in its incredibly simple life cycle and the fact that it's just not very picky. Take a look at this. Its life cycle is about as direct as it gets. You ingest the active form, it's called a trophozoite, it sets up shop in your large intestine, it multiplies, and then it gets passed on. Now, the really crucial thing here is what's missing. There's no cyst stage. A lot of other gut protozoa form this tough, protective shell to survive out in the world. This one doesn't. That means it has to be passed pretty directly from one host to another, which makes its global success kind of mind-boggling.
And this really shows you just how successful it is. It isn't found everywhere. In us, in our pets like dogs and cats, in livestock like cattle and pigs, and even in wildlife. We're talking everything from farmed Arctic foxes to Tibetan antelopes. Having this massive animal reservoir just gives it constant opportunities to spread.
Okay, so this is where the story takes a huge turn. Everything we just talked about, its simple life, being ignored by doctors, that all set the stage for why it was overlooked for so long. But now, a whole wave of new evidence is forcing everyone to take a second look. Yup, this is where that simple narrative of a harmless little passenger just starts to completely fall apart. It's being replaced by a much more complex picture. One of an opportunistic pathogen that, if given the chance, could actually cause serious harm. So how exactly does it do damage? Well, modern research shows it's got this multi-pronged attack. It physically latches onto our gut cells, which causes direct injury. Then it kicks off a big inflammatory response. It tears up the protective mucus layer in our intestines, and it even messes with the balance of our gut bacteria. The key takeaway here is that this is not a passive thing. This is an active assault on our gut. And the link to disease gets even clearer when you see a number like this. One study that looked at patients with gastrointestinal cancer found a shockingly high prevalence. Over 40% of them were infected with Pentatrichomonas hominis. Now this makes you wonder, does the parasite just thrive in a gut that's already compromised by cancer, or could it actually be helping create that dangerous environment in the first place? And this number really puts the potential danger into focus. That same research estimated that being infected with this supposedly harmless parasite was linked to a nearly 7 times higher risk for gastrointestinal cancer. That is a statistic you just can't ignore. All right, let's zoom out and look at the bigger global picture. Since this thing is found everywhere, how are different parts of the world actually finding it and dealing with it? As you're about to see, the answer is it varies a lot. This chart does a great job of showing that global variance. You've got a prevalence of almost 14% in some groups of school children in Egypt, then it jumps to over 22% in dogs in a city in China, and then you see that really alarming 41.5% in cancer patients. It is truly a cosmopolitan parasite, but where it's concentrated really changes from place to place. Now, here is a specific example. In a country like the Netherlands, it's mostly thought of as an import parasite, something that travelers bring back with them. And because of that thinking, it's often not even included in the standard panel of tests for someone who has gut problems. That means it could easily be getting missed in the local population. And that difference really stands out when you look at treatment. Internationally, if a patient has symptoms, doctors might use drugs like metronidazole. But in the Netherlands, there are no specific guidelines for humans. It often just goes completely untreated. And here's the ironic part. Vets in the Netherlands do treat it in pets, like cats. They use a drug called ronidazole, which isn't even licensed for people. Okay, so what can we actually do about this, and where is all the research headed next? Understanding how to prevent it is obviously key, but it's also really exciting to see the cutting-edge science that's helping us finally understand this complicated organism.
The good news is, prevention is pretty straightforward. It's transmitted through what's called the fecal-oral route. So the basics are your best defense. Wash your hands really well with soap and water, especially after using the restroom or handling animals. Try to avoid drinking untreated water from places like rivers or lakes, and just make sure your veggies and other produce are washed with clean, safe water.
And on the research front, scientists are making some really cool discoveries. It turns out our own immune cells can create what are basically sticky nets. The official term is macrophage extracellular traps, to literally catch and neutralize the parasite. Figuring out how our natural defenses work could open the door to all sorts of new therapies down the line. Which brings us right back to our big question. So, is it a harmless passenger or a lurking threat? The answer that's starting to emerge is, it's kind of both. For someone with a really strong immune system and a healthy gut, it might just stay a quiet passenger forever. But in a person who's already compromised, it can become a really dangerous, opportunistic threat. We put this entire explainer together using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive deeper into any of the studies or data we talked about, we've compiled a full list of all our sources for you in the Notebook LM document, which is linked down in the description. If you found this breakdown helpful, please do subscribe to the channel for more explainers just like this one. And hey, we would love to hear your thoughts. Are there any other topics you'd want us to cover? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.